We don't want to apply to TV, right? No.
9 o'clock. And I count 5 smiling faces of our, I think we are actually 7 now, because Rob Hellstrom resigned. And it's the 5 of us and Jeff and Steven. The 17, not Everett. So we are more than 4 of them. Good to go. Agenda, any revisions? Alright, it is approved as it stands. Minutes, please take a look. I do ask, since the minutes are sent out in advance and going forward, I'm gonna operate on the assumption that people will review the minutes in advance of the meeting, because I don't wanna sit here for several minutes while people go through the first time. I did confirm that is in line with Robert's rules. If you send them out in advance, it's cool to expect that people will read them in advance. But that's new notice as of now, so going forward, unless there is truly a hindrance to, or they come out late, or if there's additions in the meantime, then we can allow that. But everyone can please review the minutes of the previous meeting before the current meeting. That will help save us a few months. Pause until I don't see people looking at this anymore. If there are any corrections or additions to the minutes, please speak up as you have them. Alright, I think everyone's done looking at the minutes and kind of just jumping into the packet. So, unless there are any additions or clarifications, adjustments, the minutes are approved as presented. Audience of citizens. If you would like to speak, please raise your hand. I'll call on you and just give your name and address.
John Zavajanczyk, 17 Whitney Road. That's ZAVODJANCIK. And Whitney Road, 17 Whitney Road. I've been here on several occasions. I know that you met with the Board of Selectmen recently. And what I wanted to do was, well, I guess twofold is every time I've come here, I've complained about the speed on Whitney Road and the fact that people just go way too fast down that road. As a side issue, I've also complained about unsecured loads going to the dump. But if you guys are gonna fix one thing, it would be the speeding issue. And then I was just interested in secondly, I'm not secondly, probably primarily interested in how what recommendations are going to be implemented to address the speeding problems, not only on Whitney Road, but throughout Columbia.
Thank you very much, John. We do still have forums, like Jeff mentioned, all the way on fire business, so we will continue. Anyone else? Audience of citizens? No, great. Old business review and recommendation of speed control and safety alternatives for Board of Selectmen. It's been an eventful past month since our last meeting, which to say things have happened, which is news, I guess. Just to recap, since not everyone might be aware, 2 weeks ago, I was asked by the staff on behalf of the Board of Selectmen to give a presentation on speed cameras. I think was the exact words on the phone call I got from Harvard. Okay, what exactly are you guys looking for? It was somewhat nebulous, and so I took this to mean this is not something to speak on as in terms of being the chair of this committee, rather to discuss it in terms of my experience with automated traffic enforcement devices for 20-some years in other municipalities. It just so happened I have a presentation that I've given to other municipalities that I've revised over the years. It's about 90 minutes long. I definitely got a feeling after talking to staff and some selectmen that if I talk for 90 minutes, they're gonna stop listening after the first 15 or so. So it was interesting to cut that down to a brief period, about 10-15 minutes. And yeah, so I came in, talked to the Board of Selectmen last Tuesday, not yesterday, but a week ago. And I clarified at the start of the presentation that I would be presenting in my own capacity, not as the chair of the committee, with the exception that I felt it important to speak as the chair to include the additional recommendations that the committee has made. I was only asked to talk about the topic of speed cameras, which I felt was a little problematic because we as a committee have made other recommendations, and I wanted to make sure that they were, one, aware of it, which I think they were, but two, that it wasn't lost in the conversation. So I did include a slide discussing the other recommendations that the committee has made there, and touched on those briefly. So I presented, there was a lot of discussion at the meeting, and ultimately the Board of Selectmen voted to hold an information session, is I think what we're calling it. Not a public hearing, nothing actionable in terms of plan or policy or ordinance, but basically an opportunity to talk to folks who want to come in, to listen to them, have them talk and share their thoughts. I don't know if that's been scheduled yet.
Has been scheduled and talked to Gary Allen. He has a couple of subject matter experts from the state police that he's gonna recommend attend and present. And probably also Middletown, which has the most extensive speed camera system in the state right now. They have some experts that would have data to relay to us.
Do we know when that?
No, I haven't. Problem is right now, we're in the middle of the whole budget process, so I think we just have to pick a date when our subject matter experts could attend and then schedule.
If possible, it'd be great to have someone from T2 Center.
Yes, I was thinking T2 as well.
Was a lot of the updates I did in my presentation were based on data that they presented to me when I took their 2-day class last year, so they know a lot when it comes to
I'll call Jason, he's our contact.
programs in terms of that. Okay, and it looks like they are using this to discuss all the recommendations. It did not say they were only focusing on automated traffic enforcement devices in particular. So, there is a video of the meeting up on YouTube. If you haven't had a chance to watch it, please go ahead and check it out. But the one thing that coming out of that meeting I think is extremely relevant to us is that if we as a committee wish to make any additional recommendations, I think our window is about to close on that. So I would assume that if we do not make further recommendations out of this meeting, they may not be considered prior to the scheduling of this information session. So we've had a couple of ideas that were floated around and were never actioned. I know one of them was speed bumps, humps, and tables. And Jeff sent out an email with some information about that the other day, which smart if I have that pulled up, but let me grab that real quick. I know the long and the short of it is he talked, right here. Following up on requests to contact Mansfield Public Works regarding speed humps and bumps, I spoke with the Public Works Director to gather input. During our conversation, he noted that traffic speeds between humps, bumps remain a concern. Additionally, there are operational challenges. Town plow trucks have difficulty navigating them during winter maintenance. I also spoke with a Mansfield fire captain who shared that their apparatus drivers are not in favor of speed humps due to the impact on fire truck suspension systems. Based on this feedback, there are clear concerns from both public works and emergency response perspectives that should be considered moving forward.
Can you send that email to
And that should run,
Was that copy?
oh yeah,
Okay.
yep,
With regard to that, I understand the concerns of Public Works and the safety, fire and police with regard to those. And I know that's something we have to consider. However, on the other side of that, I drive frequently, over to Yukon, and there's a road near Hillside Road, Eastwood, Westwood, in that area. They have several speed humps, as well as where I go to work at Manchester Community College, there's speed humps there as well. And, I must say that using them daily, almost daily, I go over them, they are effective in slowing down traffic. I was just saying that with regard to your, that I do understand that concern, but also that I'm just saying that when it is, I'm seeing that they are effective. We're going around Manchester Community College and on Eastwood and Westwood up by Hillside Road. That I travel on them frequently and they do slow down traffic. They have a new way of marking them, over there, if anybody has the opportunity to go drive over there, as you're coming up towards Yukon, they have just repainted them, and then they have these white lines going smaller and smaller towards you as you're approaching them, so they're very well marked. Just, adding that.
just to catch you up, I read out the email that you sent to the committee.
Yeah, so sorry to step out, we had a call, but got canceled, so I did talk to the town of Mansfield's Director of Public Works.
Is that Tom?
Mansfield, yeah, so they work, but people speed up between them. Plow truck drivers do not like them in the winter. And if the fire captain that I spoke to don't like them because the fire trucks don't have the suspension system that your car has. So I'm not for them. Because there is no road in this town that doesn't have a speeding problem. So are we gonna put them on every road? No.
And you have to put them about every 300 feet to
Yes.
become effective, otherwise you're gonna slow down just.
Just for that,
at
and they're gonna
one
be gone. Yeah, there's no right or wrong answers here. Everyone's gonna have a personal opinion to everything. And what I'm reading from people is personal opinions. And you're not gonna solve the problem. You're not. There's no way to throw anything at it. The town just cut $900,000. We're told to cut $900,000 out of the operating town budget. And someone said, let's have another cop. Wait a minute, that's $180,000. We're not gonna have constables, because that means outfitting everybody. So let's be practical here. Let's be adults and tell our kids to slow down, because we were kids once, and try to be neighborly to everybody and tell them to slow down. We can't have our resident trooper be everywhere, because he's not just here for speeders. He's here for everything within the town, and that's more than just speeding. So the rumble strips that you went and investigated, it's louder in your car than it is when you stand away from it. And rumble strips were used more of a deterrent to know that you're crossing a lane of traffic.
Right.
And it's not used as a speed thing, it's used to say, hey, you're leaving your lane of travel. I think in some of the areas that I talked about where I recommended the cameras, I think rumble strips are needed in those areas down by the dam. The people are not gonna hear that. Because how many times are people truly out of their lane? Not all the time. So, thanks, Nick.
Yep, I'm gonna steer things back to speed bumps and so forth, so, we can continue discussing them, eventually. We have two options, three options, we can simply not act on them, we could. Move to recommend them, or we could actively move to not recommend them, so, there is something to consider that if there is a, option that we actively would like to say. The town should not consider this because we've looked into it and it's not a good fit, we can also do that if we wish. If anyone has anything further, or if there are any motions. If there are any other recommendations we'd like to discuss. I'm gonna keep the committee discussion on the committee right now. We'll have another audience of citizens a little later, but we have a lot to get through, so.
I'd like to vote against installing them.
All right, so you wanna make a motion? I'm gonna let you actually make the
Well,
motion.
how do I mean, I just wanna make a motion that we vote to not install speed bumps.
So we're an advisory committee to the Board of Selectmen, so we make recommendations to the Board of Selectmen. We don't get to decide whether we install them or not. So I would substitute a motion that we recommend to the Board of Selectmen not to investigate speed bumps, humps and tables for the town of Columbia. Is that acceptable?
Yes, thanks.
I second it.
I'm gonna give that to John, if I have a second. Any further discussion? Alright, all those in favor to not recommend? Raise your hand. All opposed? 4-1 abstain. Sorry,
4-1-0.
4-1-1.
Oh, you're right, you're right.
As a matter of course, I typically abstain unless it would either be a deciding vote or one way or another. Some chairpersons operate that way when they're running committees and commissions. Any other recommendations we wish to make? Considering this might, I mean, as long as we're in existence, we can probably continue to make recommendations down the road, but it sounds like there's a short opportunity for them to be included in whatever is going to happen in the near future, Jeff.
I'm gonna make a recommendation to the board that we just put up more speed signs when we come off major arteries on the town roads.
Speed limit sign?
Yeah.
That we have a grant for. But they're
Okay.
gonna be doing that supposedly spring, summer.
Okay.
What about some of those speed signs on the pavement? Speed limit? You can try that somewhere,
You wanna try it on a road? Go for it.
like Whitney? Was they,
Mm-hmm.
what is?
We can try it out.
30?
And just
I
try it.
mean, we can try it, but I think people speed not because they don't know the speed limit, but
Correct.
because
Right.
they're just.
But
I think
it's
signage is
an option.
important and helpful, it reminders like that, so I think that is helpful. I wanted to say with regard to your mention of more. Speed limit signs that also. Having signage that says the speed is reducing, you know, the speed is about to reduce. Like going from 45 to 35 can be helpful, and I don't see those coming off of 66 towards town, and coming up 87 towards town, it will go 45, 40, 35, but instead of that 40 in between, maybe it should just say speed reduced ahead or something like that.
They do that in Hebron. If you go to Hebron,
So I should
66.
request the state to. Sometimes they'll put speed zone ahead, something like that, or.
Reduce speed ahead, I see a lot. I've seen signs too where I was talking about the speed humps. There are signs that say walk facing traffic at the same place. Those signs are up, near those speed humps in the field as well, which is a reminder of what we've mentioned.
Alright, so to recap, we do have a motion without a second, but real quick, if this is something that DPW has funding for and it sounds like it's planning to do anyway. Do we need a recommendation to the Board of Selectmen to do so? I think the
No.
answer is no.
I didn't know the grant was in play, but I'm just thinking of things that don't cost a lot of money, that is signage. And a little proactive.
And
Over, got a grant, motion removed. Or
We don't have a
recommendation.
grant though for the state roads, so what you're saying, that would be something.
Well,
Have
if
to
it's
request.
gonna happen, the state would have to do it.
Correct.
And
It would be a request from the legal traffic bureau to do that, so we can receive that.
We had talked about a few other requests to them, like about the lights up there.
They're working on that. There's a whole new design, working on, right, for 8766 and 6 and 66.
not involved, Stevens illegal traffic authority, so.
What did you say, the
So
some?
Prague is taking the lead with DOT,
Mhm.
and Stephen was involved in that meeting with also John Gronkowski, our planner. But they're putting together a plan to reconfigure 6 and 66. And to approve left turn signal to be added as well, because you need a left turn signal to head from. To get to Dunkin' Donuts,
Correct.
because you can sit there for 3 cycles and never
Right.
have an opportunity.
I thought we were talking about 6 and 80 or 66.
They're also.
They're investigating
that as well,
66 and 86.
because it's off kilter and there's really no clear turn lanes. On there, you're kind of out in the middle and no man's land trying to turn left.
Right, you get one
You do
from,
that,
you get one from 66 coming west to 87 going south, but you don't get one. So it's, yeah, okay.
so both those intersections will work. Right now. And they showed us some examples that were good, coming off 6, like heading towards Columbia Ford.
Mhm.
They're extending the ramp much longer so that you don't come off and run right into the person turning left. You'd actually be in the entrance ramp much,
Right.
it'll dump you further down.
Okay, instead of dumping you right away, it's
Right
gonna
away.
keep you separated a little longer.
Right, so that's part of the solution.
Sounds like we can ask Steve to reach out to State Highway, ask for more signage. Doesn't necessarily need action from us to do so. Unless there are any objections to.
Well, probably we want to request similar to what the state did in Hebron, the traffic. Compression, edging,
But I don't think our roads are wide enough.
and I think that was all tied to repaving.
It was, and we don't have the physical footprint to do it on
To
any
accomplish
steps
that.
anyways. Nope.
Would like to throw a reflective orange vest to a woman who always walks on 66, in dark clothing with her dog.
How about the one on 87?
There's not one, there's many.
Well, not at
Yeah.
6:30.
We should just start hurling the vest out over you, here, please wear this. Well, we could have a conversation with them.
I think it's important to consider
It
this
is, I don't see 'em.
because people are out there and we need to think about that. I think it's an important part of traffic safety and transportation is that there are people getting around other ways besides cars on our roads.
The vests help a lot too.
But you also have to remember, the town of Columbia roads were not meant for what they are today. And you don't have the infrastructure for everything that you want. Remember back 15 years ago, they wanted sidewalks from here to the lake. That means you're buying people's easements the whole way. Because that's, the town roads were not meant, 87 was not meant for what it handles for traffic.
Well, the state easement is wide enough there.
Oh, it is?
We already looked into it, but the challenge is shoveling them in the winter and possibly cutting down some trees along the front. And it,
Of course.
I think we looked at it 8 years ago, it was a
Grants
million.
available for those things,
It
lots
us money.
of grants available for those upgrades, that's them through the Department of Transportation.
It's worth noting that recommendations that come with challenges, potentially even seemingly insurmountable challenges, are still recommendations we can make.
Columbia was designed as an agricultural town,
Mhm.
and now we're trying to adapt it because some of the farmland has been sold. And now we want to try to make it like more like a rural area, and the infrastructure's not there. It's gonna take a lot of investment on our part, and it's gonna take a lot of time.
Alright, I'm gonna put out a final call for any other recommendations we wish to make this time.
I'd like to make a motion that the board reconsider mumble strips around the dam as part of this broader conversation for how to solve our issues. I don't think,
And we see,
they voted last time, but I don't think it was a fair. Those traffic engineers got beat up there wasn't a lot of. Some of the things you went and looked at for what the noise was, there was fear, but there wasn't like the other end of what is the actual noise. So I don't think it was a fair presentation.
If that's a motion, I'll second it.
Give it to Johnny Dan, it's always half second faster. It is worth definitely noting that, mumble strips are not a speed control thing, which I hear stated over and over again at Board of Selectmen meetings. They need to understand that in their consideration, but what it does do, it does well. If you are about to go out of your lane, those things have saved many lives.
It's not a speed control, but what it does do is it says, hey, you're going too fast that you can't stay in your own lane.
Right.
Or
Right,
something's
it's a
going,
lane
you're out of
departure.
control.
Correct.
You might need to slow down.
Something bad will about.
Yeah, you're doing it wrong.
It definitely tells you you're doing something wrong with driving, but by federal highway standards, they are not meant to be used as a speed control device.
Definitely safety.
Yes.
And I think that revolves around this committee. Safety features, we've had quite a few bad accidents in that corner, and luckily none of them have been fatal. But we've had bad accidents in that corner, and I think that's a great recommendation, and I think that they should move forward with it.
Any further discussion? All those in favor of recommending mumble strips? I see 5 hands, I will abstain. Anything else? All right. Move us on to new business.
And those are mumble strips.
I've heard of called rumble strips, mumble strips.
Rumble is louder than mumble.
The mumbles have
Two
a
levels.
different,
Different configuration.
When we get the ones that play music when you drive over.
We want the subwoofer. Mumble.
All right, new business, we have 2 applications, we're gonna make this a slightly larger topic, which is, the current makeup of the committee, if I'm correct, we are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 members. We were originally formed with 9 members, we've had some people come and go since then. My understanding is that 9 is our maximum capacity, I think.
I think, didn't we convert, Stephen and Gary to their members, but they're non-voting members?
I don't think so, yeah.
And then we've had 2 meetings now that were not able to happen because we did not have a quorum. And part of that was, I think last time, we had 4 people attend and we were technically still 8 because one person who has since resigned was still counted as a member. And we have to have more than half the membership to have a meeting, so. At 7, we still need 4. But we could potentially have 2 more if we wish. I will note that 1 member has attended, I think, 2 meetings, and that's your deputy, Jeff.
Yeah.
No, he's not.
He's not a voting member, he's on the committee with Gary, like Gary is, they're not voting members of the committee.
My understanding is everyone was a voting member at the beginning and we never actually shifted his status otherwise.
Okay.
We'd like to do that, that's something we formalize and have the Board of Selectmen sign off on.
I mean, I can't guarantee you I'm gonna be here every meeting, like I just walked out for this call.
Right. Would you ever send Stephen your?
I could send Steven in my place, I mean, the fire department could have representation on this board, he is my deputy, second in command. But I can't always guarantee I'm gonna be here.
Do we have precedent to have a position on a committee filled by an office as opposed to an individual person? All right, do we need to take any action to clarify that? Can we simply say if Jeff isn't here, Stephen can fill
Let's make that recommendation for something so that they can
Okay,
bless it and make it as part of the community.
I think I'll go ahead and make the recommendation that we ask the Board of Selectmen to make Chief Lewis's seat able to be occupied by either Chief Lewis or his designee in the fire department.
Or just, that's good.
Thank you.
That is a motion.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Abstain.
402. Approved. So in that case, we are actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 members, which means we have 3 openings. Now, when we have an even number, it's problematic because we need to have one more than half, in order to have quorum. So ideally, we will have 3 people come along, fill the vacancies. In the meantime, it's been my rare past experience that we try to keep the number odd whenever possible. But I defer to the larger committee as a whole to kind of decide that. But on that note, we have 2 applications before us, so maybe we're on our way to solving that problem today. Let's go ahead and review them in the order that they're listed here. I believe both applicants are present in the audience today, which is fantastic. I mean, they're real people who actually come to the meetings. Make sure I haven't had any other questions before we go into this. So it looks like the committee can offer a recommendation to the Board of Selectmen, but ultimately it's the Board of Selectmen who makes the sole decision as to who joins its committees. So we can go ahead and review the applicants. If we have any questions for them, we'll go ahead, but we'll go ahead and pull up Jennifer's application first. Jennifer, raise your hand, say hi to everyone. If you want to go ahead and give yourself an introduction, please do.
My name's Jennifer Donahueto. I live at 279 Route 66. I've been here for 20 years, 2 children through the school system and all the way through the school system. And I've had 2 nephews also halfway through the school system as well. My son was actually almost killed waiting for the school bus at 8 a.m. by a drunk driver when he was in the 6th grade. So this is actually a committee that when I was talking to Nick that really kind of hit for me. So that's one reason that I would really like to be on the committee. And also because where I live right at the kind of bottom of the hill where the light is at McQueen Pine. And every winter, my husband's out there helping people out of our front yard. They come flying down the hill and slide right into our front yard, or they're crashing right at the blinking light, and I'm out there in the middle of my dinner, stopping and helping with traffic until the fire department gets there. Something pretty big that's impacting my life.
And just to clarify, we are neighbors, and as I suggest to almost everyone I've run into in town, I said, hey, you should get involved. And here you are.
I came the very next day.
You advised me on quite a bit of history in terms of Columbia traffic transportation issues over the years, so thank you for that, and thank you for submitting an application. Does anyone have any questions for Jennifer? Great. I think let's look at both applications and then we can talk about recommendations and go from there. Next up is JC Anderson. JC, you're here. You want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
I'm Tracy Anderson. I live on 24 Doubleday. I've lived here for about 6-ish years now. I just recently graduated and have been very wanting to get involved in town government. I like being involved in that, knowing what's going on. I love research, but I'm really interested in finding out all the facts and being able to help out with that. So I'm very interested in saying what I can find out about different recommendations for the town and the board that can help out.
Any question? Yeah.
I was informed of an email that she wrote, about. This morning I was informed about this email that you wrote about basically Nick's presentation last Wednesday night to the Board of Selectmen. I guess they just have some concerns about it. The last thing I asked to look for a better qualified and less biased person to hold chair. Joining committee, we all have to work together. We're all gonna have our differences and opinions, and that's fine. But when we write an email and we put it out to everybody, you kind of set in a different, you're set in a different stage, kind of old school the way I work. And I'm just concerned about it. You know, it bothers me that Nick was asked to put this together. This presentation is not nothing that he went off and did on his own. It was basically given. He was asked to present that to the board, offer a recommendation from first selectman. So, can you just answer to that last sentence you wrote? I guess it's my concern.
I just felt concerned that he felt the need to lie about information, data that you can go and research yourself, and he just felt the need to tell everyone the false stuff and not like no one questioned him on that.
Would it help if we reviewed some of the items in the email?
Yeah, I'd love to.
Yeah, and I
Sure, go ahead.
also find that the corrections were hard for me to understand because they seem to be just over a percentage point or something very minor, and I'll let you clarify that, but that seemed not in the spirit of trying to solve these big issues, but more just like spending time arguing over things that really didn't impact the whole big picture.
So I can go ahead.
I'd like to say something on that. I was the president in that meeting, and I felt like that the presentation was made in such a way that it sounded like it was on behalf of the committee, like it was 100%. I voted against it. So, I mean, you could say that it was voted, but I felt like that the presentation was done like that we were 100% behind this.
Now, I do need to interrupt here, because what you're saying is a very serious charge that I am speaking out of turn on behalf of the committee, when in fact I prefaced the entire presentation by saying that I was speaking in my own capacity, with the exception to convey the recommendations that the committee had previously made.
Okay, you did say that. Okay, you wanna say that, but I felt like that the presentation was a little one-sided myself.
I was asked to give a presentation on basic information, benefits, and misinformation that is commonly given. I was also told to be brief. Normally, in 90 minutes, I would provide a lot more information.
It's just that I'm on the committee, and I found out the day of that you were giving that presentation.
I found out 6 days before.
Yeah. So there we go.
Because there was no intervening meeting, I could not come to the committee and say, would you like me to give this presentation on behalf of the committee?
Yeah, I just felt that the board has already voted it down, and then all of a sudden, here we come to the next meeting, and it's almost like, oh, this is what we advised.
The board has voted what down?
The board said that they didn't want the speed cameras.
The board is taking no action on
Right.
cameras.
Okay.
Board of Selectmen.
I just felt like it was a presentation, like, here we go, let's try to get this in.
Speaking.
Yes, this committee did.
So I think we're talking about two different ones. This committee recommended speaking words, or selectmen have not taken action.
Board of Selectmen has to have Board of Selectmen need to get it to a public forum, and they finally got it, or gonna get it to a public forum. And that's what they were trying to do all along, was just get it to a public forum. And Nick, with his knowledge, they went to Nick, or one of them went to Nick and said, put this on so we can move this thing forward to get it to public forum.
Okay.
And let it go to where it needs to, and put it to the townspeople to put it in or put it out. And Nick just became the one that had to do the presentation, since it's what he has the most knowledge in. So he wasn't talking that night. I was standing there. He wasn't talking about our committee. He was talking about his knowledge, and all the data he got was from a presentation that was given. Correct? You were just reciting the information that was given. So this isn't stuff that he went and dug up. This was stuff that was given in a presentation and he was reiterating it to the board. That's all it was.
Yeah, I didn't feel that there was pros and cons. I felt that it was more like I'm a salesman and I'm selling this.
I'm definitely not selling these devices. I've never been employed by a company that sells them. I was also asked to convey certain topics, was not told to give the pros and cons.
Right. And then pretty much nobody was allowed to speak. And again, this is the board of selectmen, and it's not this meeting, but it was like, it's almost like it was staged where nobody's gonna be able to rebut these comments or even speak on it.
There's going to be ample opportunity because at this point, there is going to be an information session that is open for the entire town to come, and I think everyone will be allowed to.
Because thank God somebody was loud enough to speak up. Chris.
And then also, hold on, I identify who will be speaking, just to clarify.
Okay.
There's a certain order of things here. There would also, should that the Board of Selectmen take action to continue the process, there would need to be a second meeting, a public hearing, once there's a plan drafted. And then the Board of Selectmen would vote or not to approve that plan. And then, because it would require an ordinance change in town, there would be a town meeting. So the public will actually have 3 opportunities to come speak on this matter before it would be put into effect. So there are ample opportunities for everyone to come out, say what they would like to say. I gave a presentation based on what I was asked to give a presentation on, based on information that I've been given. I updated my information based on latest statistics, and I do want to review the items that are highlighted in Jason's email real quick, just so we can make sure that the correct facts are on the record. You highlighted on the slide, speeding is a problem in Columbia, you highlighted factor in 29% of motor vehicle fatalities. And I believe you included a copy of what I referenced, which is the NHTSA 2023 findings. And you highlighted 28% of fatal crashes, 13% of injury crashes, and 9% of property damage only crashes in 2023 were speeding related traffic crashes. Just so I understand, can you clarify what point you were trying to make there?
Just that you, either the presentation you got, I'd be very interested in saying that, but just the numbers, everything was just a little off.
So you're saying that my 29% does not match the 28% that's listed, that's highlighted there?
Yep.
Those are 2 different values. So the 28% is talking about crashes, which is vehicles, 29% is referring to fatalities, which is people. In fact, if you look at the very next bullet point under key findings on the NHTSA data sheet, it says in 2023, there were 11,715 fatalities in speeding related crashes, 29% of total traffic fatalities for a year. So that is the information in that highlighted. I understand there's a little bit of confusion there because sometimes they interchange when they're talking about vehicles and people without making it totally obvious that they're doing that. But I did specify in the presentation that it was fatalities, which people die partially. Going on to the next item, on the slide, ATESD benefits. Highlighted item, decades of use, 26 states and the District of Columbia. You provided, I believe, the summary automated enforcement overview updated July 20th, 2021. And you highlighted a section saying, currently city and local governments in 22 states, I'm going to skip the list, and District of Columbia use red light cameras. So, I assume that you're saying that my number is elevated from the 22.
It is, also you're not stating that automated traffic enforcement devices and red light cameras are 2 very different things, and you can put them in very different places.
So I do refer to them as ATESDs throughout the document. There are a couple of points at which I distinguish what is being discussed, but overall, I talk about all automated traffic enforcement safety devices. In addition, your source was from 2021. I can go ahead and provide an updated source here. Drop it into the chat here. Fire with me. That. Click on it. Shows the link for me, and yes, you can click on it. So this is a page from the, I always forget what the acronym stands for, Insurance Institute for Highway Safety, Highway Loss Data Institute. This page by far is the most up-to-date source I've found, which is to say, it has been updated 3 times since I viewed it first 2 months ago. And the current date listed is April 2026. It states that the number of individual communities with programs of speed cameras specifically, not all automated traffic enforcement safety devices are listed here. We can go through this list and count them, but I assure you that there are 26 states and the District of Columbia listed here. So definitely in 2021, the number was lower. When I first gave a presentation on the topic to the Maryland Department of Transportation in 2003, it was some modest single-digit number. It's changing. In fact, as I said, the number of communities has changed 3 times just since I was asked to put the presentation together. So it is always a changing number. Some states come and go. I think Missouri used to have them, they don't. North Carolina is about to add them. It's an ever-changing number, but I am confident that the number I provided in the presentation is accurate and actually currently still is. Any questions on that point? And then the third item that was highlighted was reduce speed-related crashes by 54%. And I cited the FAA proven safety countermeasures, which we've looked at a number of times here as a committee. You included the fact sheet and highlighted fixed units can reduce crashes on urban principal arterials up to 50%, 54% for all crashes. I'm at a loss. Can you clarify?
You took that out of context. What study they were doing was on a highway in Scottsdale, Arizona, and we are nowhere near that like size. Columbia is a very different town, so what you were doing is trying to like apply information that really could be applied to our town because we're a rural area with highways is not really big.
So the 54% does apply in this one study, but that is also the accurate number overall for a number of locations that they've looked at. There are some programs where the effectiveness has been lower numbers, like 30-something%. And I think Portland recently put out a number saying that they reduced their overall fatalities by 80-some%. My point is, I can pick whatever locations I want to come up with certain numbers. This is a number that the Federal Highway Administration frequently uses in its presentations when it's giving these out. We are not Scottsdale, Arizona, but we also don't have a program in which we can demonstrate our own effectiveness. It is to say that it can reduce it by 54%. I could have easily pointed to a specific town and said it reduced it by 80% there. I chose a number. That's the number from Federal Highway Administration. Their big bold number that's on their data sheet for this that they encourage us to use. I stand by it. I don't think it's inaccurate or that it inaccurately depicts a situation.
I think following what John said, that you clearly are in support of traffic cameras, so you're going to bring that bias to a presentation you give. Any of us can pull statistics to support a position we're supporting.
So,
And I was at the presentation at the Board of Selectmen. It's not your fault that they chose not to allow comments or questions. Some of these things could have been cleared up during that presentation had they decided to do that. That's not on you. However, it shows bias. It just does. You're in support of them. You want them. You gave the presentation in light of that.
I will note that I'm forced to wear a few different hats in the situation. One is very obviously as the chair of the committee, I was asked to present, I think in my own capacity as kind of a subject matter expert on these. And there's a third hat, which I've refrained from wearing in public forums of the Board of Selectmen, which is to present my own opinion. And I do try to operate this committee as its chair as unbiased as I can be. And while information I presented in public forums can be construed to suggest that I do support them, I don't think there's anything actually on the record by which you can arrive at the conclusion that I do support them.
I mean,
Maybe
really,
I can actually.
really, Nick,
I
because
can-
you beat me up with Rob when he was still on the board, trying to get my opinion. So that you could figure out why I didn't agree with it.
I wanted to find out what every side felt were the issues, because.
Last time I checked, Robert's rules
I'm
didn't allow
talking,
you to
please,
make
let-
someone put their opinion on the record.
A second time,
So let's,
and if I interrupt you a third time, we'll have to revisit how things are operated on the committee. When I asked you to convey any concerns you had, because if they are concerns that I need to take into consideration, I would like to be informed of them. I try to keep an open mind in terms of everything that we're considering, and I want to hear both the pros and cons from everyone who has them.
you didn't choose to badger anyone in the other positions.
I don't feel that I badgered you, I simply wanted to hear what your concerns were so that we as a committee could address them. I do ultimately remember you said that you don't like them, which is a position I very strongly respect. I do think that simply not liking something is something we have a right to deal about things, and I think we're gonna hear from people in town who simply don't like them. I think that's perfectly fine. Where I do take issue is where facts are misrepresented. And it is my belief that some of the facts that were presented in this email were misrepresented. But at this point, I need to recuse myself from the situation, allow the committee to take whatever action feels is appropriate. Sure.
I just wanted to comment on, when we were talking about the automated traffic enforcement. I remember that conversation, and I remember several times you asking people to please bring up the other point of view, and it continued to not, there was no argument against them that was brought up in terms of that. I felt like that information was requested several times.
I mean, to be clear, after being badgered, I was told I wasn't allowed to speak any further, so I wasn't actually given a chance to share even what my opinion was.
I'm sorry you felt that way. I didn't perceive it that way at the time, and that's unfortunate that you felt that way. But
Jeff.
So currently we can come back to this camera thing in a few minutes, but we currently have 2 members' applications open for us to discuss. We need to finalize that, because I'd like to go back to the camera thing and discuss that before we close out this meeting. So can we just get back to the 2 open applications that we have and then go back to this?
That's where we are. If I wait any action from the committee.
So the only thing I have is that, forgot her name, sorry, JC. I have no problem with it as long as willing to work together as a group.
I'm willing to work with you guys, I just don't respect liars, I don't want someone lying to my face and then telling me to work with them.
I'm just gonna say right here, I don't come to a lot of these meetings because I think we just talk in circles a lot, but I also am the one enforcing, so I can't just sit in here and hear about the things that we're gonna, make Columbia great again. Speeding is a problem all over town, all the world, okay, it's not just this town. Majority of the people speeding in this town are the residents, we've cleared that the first time we had a meeting. I'm telling you because I'm the subject matter expert on traffic stops, on enforcement, because at the end of the day, anything that this town comes up with, I'm the one doing it. So whether it's really up to me how much I'm enforcing out there, and I'm doing the best I can, but when you come to a meeting like this, and then you hear the circle talk of the same thing we talked about the first meeting we ever started, And then I go out there and I'm working and I'm doing the enforcement on the cell phones, the speeding, and I hear other residents saying, hey, I see a difference. I see a difference because when I'm here at 6:30 in the morning and there's no speeding and I'm in different locations and I'm switching it up and speeding has gone down, I can see the difference. But it doesn't seem that the board, at least for me, when I'm coming here, that anyone sees a difference because we're like, oh, let's do this, but you don't wanna hear it from the person actually doing the job. Secondly, if everyone's gonna have an opinion, totally agree. Whether he likes traffic cameras and she doesn't like it, I don't care. If you want them, if you don't, that's up to you guys, it's revenue for the town, it will help out my job in the sense of sitting on 87 every single day to stop people, because that's the high flow of traffic, especially when school's going on. Okay, that's up to you guys, so I don't care what you guys do with that, but I would say that there's more pros than cons. But again, if you say it's an infringement on your rights, well, me sitting on the side of the road hitting you with a laser could be is the same exact thing, and guess what? You're in a public space. So if you want to join, I would just say the argument, like being argumentative isn't gonna work. We need to, we're gonna have our own opinions and we'll be like, I don't agree, but it is what it is, and we've said this before. We're gonna have conversations where there's gonna be people that don't like it, but we still have to move on and pass something, because something needs to happen. Whether we all agree with it or not, the majority rules and we move on and we go to the next topic. But if we're gonna argue and get personal with the information we're getting, it's not personal. We're all here because we're trying to make Columbia safer. And if we're gonna get argumentative and put our opinions over what we're actually here for, then it's never gonna work. That would just be my thing.
Thank you. So I'd like to move them both forward to the committee.
Or we
We'll
should-
do one at a time.
So this is where things get complicated. I don't know if we can consider them both at the same time.
I move to, have a vote on whether Jennifer, sorry, if I'm saying it wrong, be on the applicant.
A motion needs to be either in the affirmative or the negative, so it's not just to have a vote, it's.
Okay, I vote to have Jennifer join the,
Well, we would recommend to the board of select.
to recommend to the board.
Sorry.
It's time to,
Jennifer is right here.
Okay, Jennifer, and then what's your name now?
Chafley?
JC? Okay.
There is a motion to recommend second, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Right.
5-0, and I abstain. Any additional motions?
Are we making a motion for,
People can make whatever motions they want.
okay, I make a motion to, move, was it, JC, thank you. Sorry, I'm bad with names.
We would have to get you like a placard or a name badge. I don't know why people are in trouble.
I make the motion, to move this, her acceptance, to the board,
To recommend.
to recommend, approval to the board. Ready. Thank you.
I don't know how these work, but I agree, she obviously is passionate about it, so we need that, from that, I think the more people that are actually passionate about it are great. Which is, we have to understand that everyone has opinions and not, we can voice them, but when things need to happen, it's.
Is there a second?
Sorry?
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4. Opposed? What was that?
no,
Who did not? Abstain? Abstain. 4-0-2. Thank you both for coming in. You're welcome to stick around for the rest of the meeting. We're not gonna go too much longer here because people have a place to be and we can potentially table things even. So. Yeah, Jeff.
Can I circle back to the camera? Real quick.
I'll give you a minute here. Technically, we're past discussing recommendations. We've had a recommendation on that.
There's not a recommendation, it's more, we're going to a town meeting, which needed to happen. And again, I'm gonna reiterate what Gary said. People are going to have their personal views. And I know how this is gonna play out in the town. It's kind of like the budget time. Things are gonna play out, people are gonna have their own personal feelings, and that's great. But you have to look at the bigger picture. You walk around with this in your pocket and everyone's worried about privacy. So if you're worried about your privacy, you better throw away your phone. Second of all, the state of Connecticut is moving forward with traffic cameras on highways. You're not getting a say in that. They're moving forward. And there's reasons why. The data is proving it's saving lives, it's cutting down on certain things. Are you gonna see it everywhere? Nope, because we can't put them every mile. But if it can free up our resident trooper in a few areas that we know are prone areas, and it helps, it's a win. Anything's a win to save a life at the end of the day. And what ultimately comes back to that first comment I made. We have to be our own advocates of slowing people down. That's telling our kids to slow down, that's telling neighbors to slow down if you see them. You gotta confront it. And if we're not gonna confront it and we're just gonna sit around and we're all gonna come to this traffic committee and we're all gonna bash it or support it, it's just gonna go to a vote anyways. And when it loses or wins, people on either side are gonna get excited or be upset. But either way, it's moving forward. So we can't change what people think is going to happen with your data. Like I said, when I left that and I was listening to people talk and all that, I'm like, it's no different than me standing on the side of the road and taking pictures. I'm in a public spot. I can take pictures of anyone I want, anything I want. Tell me I'm wrong. You can do it. So what's the difference of it catching your car going fast and people are being like, well, I wasn't driving. Well, someone had your car. Did you report it to the state police as it's stolen? Let's just be realistic to it. We always want to push, hold on one more second. We always want to push it somewhere else. But let's just take responsibility. And we got to move something forward. And like we did today, we recommended speed signs. Made a motion to put on speed on the pavement in some areas. We got to move things forward. We got to get going because, as Gary said, we can't just keep circling the wheel. Thanks.
I'm gonna move along. How to report road classification traffic issues to Google Maps. A few months ago, I mentioned that there's a mechanism by which if you think there's a problem on your road and Google Maps is making it worse and all the mapping services are, you can report the issue. I put together some instructions on how to do that. They're included in the packet here. Staff has a copy. If anyone says, hey, Google Maps seems to be sending truck traffic through my tiny little neighborhood road, you can go report that as an issue. In my experience, if enough people do that in a very small area, they will look at it. A single report generally won't get action, but numerous times I've contributed to similar reports and their updates are made. Just, you don't get any transparency whatsoever to it, but they can do whatever they want with their maps, but sometimes they actually do listen. I recommend taking a look at that for your own use, should you ever have any issues you wish to highlight. I didn't have anything else to say about that. Problem report review. I'm not gonna bring up the spreadsheet today. I have been updating it with reports as they've been forwarded to me by staff. The list continues to grow. It's a variety of different locations throughout town. The bigger issue we have right now is we're kind of looking at potential recommendations. Board of Selectmen will potentially take action in the not too distant future. And I think once they have taken those actions, we can go ahead and align some of these problems with potential solutions. In the meantime, we'll continue to collect the data, and when we have some time during a meeting, we can go ahead and review those. But in the meantime, please look through the spreadsheet. The link is included here. It is open to the public to look at and just become aware of where our anecdotal reports in town are coming from. Anything else on that? Otherwise, I'm going to jump into research related to grants for speed enforcement and other related traffic safety programs / campaigns. I was asked by staff to look to see if there are any grants available to provide additional funding for increased law enforcement in our community. I'm not a grants person. I am married to one and I came to her and I said, do you know anything about this? And she said, if they're there, that's not anything I'm an expert on. I wouldn't even know where to look. So I did some research, but you're here and if you can give a brief overview of what's been going on in your world with regard to grants.
Yeah, so DOT, all the grants come from DOT. They had the rural roads grant, which when Trooper DeCarly was here, he actually did. And then I actually helped him prior to coming here on essentially enforcing roads that are rural. So it's not the state roads, 8766, it's West Pine, roads like that. So that's that grant. That grant's not in right now. That was back then. The other one that is every year is a DUI grant. And with the grants, they give you a certain amount of money and a certain amount of hours. With that being said, again, then you would have to find officers and or troopers to work those hours. So for this town, you have one resident trooper. So you got the DUI grant, cool. But now you're telling me that I have to work overtime to work those hours, because if you don't work those hours, if you don't work that grant and basically spend the money that they're giving you for that grant, and I can request other troopers, hey, you want overtime, work this grant for a few hours or whatever, you can extend for a period of time, but if they see that you're not using it, they're gonna be like, okay, then why are you asking for it? So, I mean, we don't have that many DUIs in Columbia, even from the evening shift guys, myself, majority of them are gonna be Bolton, Willimantic, Route 6, so it's not necessarily Columbia, the town, so I wouldn't recommend that grant specifically. I've already spoke to Sergeant Cash, who does that grant constantly for the troop, and, he's even told me that possibly I can, work that grant and then still do enforcement in Columbia, so I had options, right? And I've talked to Mark and Steve and said, hey, we can, if you guys are willing to pay overtime, I can come in on weekends, I can come work doubles, especially in the summer when it gets busier to do more enforcement. But again, that's for grants, those are the only two you're looking at right now. And one of them's not even optional. So you have one grant and that's kind of how it's played. They're gonna base it off of what you're actually using. And if you're not using it, they're gonna not grant it next time, essentially.
No, I correct that the rural roads grant is a state grant that derives its funding from a federal source, the ARPA funding.
I believe so.
That's what I found as well. Chris?
I just have a question, if Columbia as a town wants to contract with the state police to have somebody here specifically for speed enforcement versus like a whole additional residential trooper, what does that process look like?
Okay, one more time, so you want.
So I used to work for the state police in Vermont, and obviously it's different than here, but a lot of their law enforcement was contracted with either the sheriff's department or the state police to do targeted enforcement in different areas. I'm just wondering if that's a thing here. Can this town come to the state police and say, we'd like a trooper 2 days a week to do speed enforcement? Is that like a thing that happens?
Well, no, because you essentially have a trooper, because, right, the town's paying for a resident trooper, so you already have that contract per se.
Right, but if we want something in addition to what you're able to provide without buying a whole trooper for the year.
That would just be, are you willing to pay for extra troopers to do
For
that?
hours.
Right, and you'd have to pay a trooper price depending, you know what I mean, so, I mean, I've said it, like, I could see, we obviously have a North car who patrols Bolton, Andover, and Columbia, they all have resident troopers in them. And I have no problem asking guys that are willing to work to be like, hey, we're gonna flood Columbia, but like, is that the answer? No, because when I was really high in enforcement when I first got here, someone from the Board of Selectmen, some chair, told someone to tell me to stop giving so many tickets because they were complaining. And then I again iterated, I don't work for you, I'm doing my job. The town has a speeding problem, just like every town. I'm enforcing the speed. If you live in this town and you're still speeding, that means you don't care. And then again, enforcement happens. But the town, I've been lenient and I've given warnings, but I pulled the same person over 3 times.
Sure.
So it's like, at what point do you think now you're just being disrespectful to me and the people that are walking on these roads? So I don't have, a bias on how you guys do your enforcement or what you guys want, but I will stop everyone and I'm fair, firm, but I'm not gonna sit there and get pushed over because, oh, you weren't.
No, I
You know what I
understand,
mean? But
yeah, and
I
I don't
would
have
say,
an issue with how you're.
I would say that would be the only way, is me getting a bunch of troopers to be like, hey, are you guys gonna be?
But that is an option.
Yeah, I just wanna clarify, make sure I understand what you're asking and what you're saying. So basically, I think what you're asking is if the town just came to Troop K and said, here's a bucket of money, we'd like a trooper a couple days a week only to do speed enforcement. Is that something we could do? Is that kind of, yeah?
So that would be something I would have to talk to the supervisors for,
Can you find
and
out?
I will tell you, the biggest thing is probably gonna be, one, who's gonna do it, because we're already short staffed it is, people are getting ordered in left and right. We don't have enough troopers to begin with, and then someone that's willing to work the overtime to do enforcement. With all the stuff going on, not many people do as much as enforcement as I do particularly,
Sure.
so, but I could ask other troopers like, hey, you wanna help me out, and we're just gonna, this day and this day, we're gonna do just enforcement, we're just gonna be on this road and this road, and just hit. I could do that any day, every day, if I wanted to, but flooding the town of Columbia isn't gonna stop this.
I'm not necessarily suggesting we flood the town of Columbia on a regular basis, but even if that was something that was done periodically, it's gonna make people think.
Oh, absolutely, and I mean, in majority.
Which I think right now we have an issue with. People are comfortable knowing that you're only around certain hours and they
Right.
can kind of get away with it.
So-
So I think challenging that
Yeah.
would go a longer way, even if it was only done sporadically. And I don't, to my knowledge, it's not something the town's looked at. I don't know if Mark is aware of it, but
Your boss. The
Yeah.
head of the resident trooper program. Did say what Trooper Allen is suggesting, that we have the ability to set up some joint cooperation with surrounding towns for events.
Right.
So that is possible and he's supporting that.
Yeah, I could get resident troopers, Bolton, Andover, like, hey, come down this way, and
We
then
do Columbia.
we can do all of Route 6, and just hammer that, and then move on to the next one, and it's possible, it's just trying to coordinate that, it's gonna be a little difficult now more than ever, just because of how short staffed we are.
sure.
Right.
And, yeah,
And that's kind of what I was seeing, the theme of my research is, even if you have a gigantic bucket of money, it's finding the troopers to actually use the money.
well, and that's what it comes with the grants, the grants are great if you're able to fill.
And if you don't use them all in 1 year, you won't get it the next year.
Right.
I did kind of a deeper dive into this and not to talk at length, but in short, there may have been other opportunities a couple of years ago, but, very brief summaries that kind of the federal funding priorities have changed, a lot in the past year or so regarding, where funding is allocated for policing, and safe streets initiatives. So two things I was able to find is the community policing development micro grants, which is actually under the Department of Justice. They will issue micro grants in very limited categories, but also there's an open category. And in the past, it looks like some of those open categories have been used for a variety of enforcement actions. But for the most part, these grants seem to favor larger multi-person departments that have more dedicated administrative support to go along with those, as opposed to, hey, small town, here's money to do some additional speed enforcement. Not saying that's out of the realm of possibility, but if we could frame this as a larger project with very specific goals, who knows, it could fly. I've seen crazier grants get built.
There is one grant that doesn't focus solely on speed, it's more safety. It's a safe street.
And roads for all. Yep.
Yeah, the deadline is May 26th.
Yep, and that's every year's thing.
What do they provide money for? What are the?
Well, you do a study and a plan, so basically you'd ask someone to, let's say, Lake Road was your focus. Whether it be widening, adding a bike path, and then from there you could get a grant to do whatever the study.
And so I read through the entire notice of funding opportunity for that one. The long and the short of it is, a couple of years ago, it was very oriented towards pedestrian, bicycle, and general road safety, and it's been used for police enforcement campaigns in the past. But it has now been drastically redefined to favor infrastructure improvements and beautification. I'm not making that part up. I wish I was. And also the good news is that they're now tending to favor rural areas, which they define as a population of 200,000 or less. So that's check mark in our favor. But they call a less favorable consideration is given to anything reducing the level of service for vehicles. So anything that slows traffic down, they're not necessarily as interested in funding with this grant anymore. And that's gonna be anything from infrastructure that's meant to slow things down to enforcement meant to slow things down.
But at least to make the walking public safe.
Oh, yeah, I agree. There are definitely things we could use in town for that grant. It's worth looking into. May 26th deadline.
What's the amount?
Variable.
Yeah, it depends.
It's a huge bucket of money, hundreds of millions, I think, maybe at least tens of millions.
Mansfield got on that here, it was a big intersection where a student went hit or killed.
And a lot of these funds, like with the rural roads grant, they are federal funding that goes to the state. The state decides how to distribute it to municipality. With this grant, it's great because USDOT says we can fund the town directly. It bypasses the state agency, so it's a much shorter process. Specifically, if you're doing planning and demonstration grants, that can potentially incorporate a lot of items infrastructure wise, but I don't think you count as planning and demonstration. So there's a couple options out there, but the long and the short of it is there's not a magic bucket of money that's going to appear to give us the funding. If we want to fund additional enforcement, it's more likely going to need to come from in town, and then even with a magic bucket of money, there's only so many people, so many troopers, so much overtime they would potentially be willing and able to do. That's what I found when I was asked to look for that. I'm happy to share this information. I can send out the links that I found for these two grants if people would like to look into them some more. I think that's it for new business. Correspondence, we've already reviewed the email, so I don't think we need to review that anymore. We have another audience of citizens, if anyone wishes to say anything else. Pause, great. Board member comments, everyone can go ahead and speak. Jeff, we made a lot of comments, so if any others, go ahead, but. Anybody?
I'd like to say something.
Oh, yeah.
Just going forward, we don't need to beat this up, but if you said that you had 6 days before to get that together. I'm a big firm believer of the 1/3, 2/3 rule, of when you have some information, don't hold on to it long enough. I do believe there should have been some information that was put out that you're gonna be presenting to the Board of Selectmen.
If I were presenting in the capacity of the chair, I would have not only reached out, I would have not done so without actually having a meeting to discuss that, but presenting in my own capacity, that's absolutely not something I need to run by the committee.
Okay. I got my answer.
That is an important note, and I will elaborate on that, is that when we have meetings going forward, it is important that when we do speak at them, one, we are all free to express our own opinions, but two, please be careful that if you identify yourself in a particular capacity, you're not accidentally conveying that you're speaking on behalf of the committee. For instance, if you identify yourself as a member of the committee and then you go ahead and talk, it could be construed that you are talking on behalf of the committee. So either simply don't identify yourself as a member of the committee, give your name and address like you normally would, and I don't think anyone's going to misconstrue that. However, because I am the chair, I will always say that I'm speaking in my own capacity if I am doing so. That's just my own preference. Or if you want to identify that you are a member of the committee, but you're speaking your own capacity, that's great too. But what I definitely don't want to see is you identify yourself as a member of the committee and you express your opinions, because that could be a lot of trouble.
Okay.
And if you have other hats you wear, like fire chief, subject matter expert, trooper, whatever, that's great, you can talk to those as well. I will say going forward, that because I already have two hats, chair and also subject matter expert, those are the only two hats I'll be wearing in the upcoming meetings. My personal opinions, I'm gonna keep them to myself. So anything I present in a public hearing is gonna be fact-based, well-researched, and I will identify in what capacity I'm speaking, and I don't expect I'll be speaking in the capacity of the chair, other than to relay information that is in our minutes, anyone can publicly see. Any other board member comments? Oh, look, it's the end of our agenda.
Motion to adjourn. I second it.
We're out. Being adjourned at 10:21. Thank you everyone for coming.